Hello, Austin, Texas, and welcome to the Home Team 512 with Troy and Colton, where we discuss real estate and finances so we can hope that you can get a little bit out of it and make better decisions in the future. We also hope you enjoy it as well. This segment is brought to you by Security National Mortgage, where we turn houses into homes by financing your American dream. If you want to reach out to me, it's 855-299-HOME or loansfromtroy.com. Or, of course, our amazing QR code up there. We're getting so tech savvy over here on this side. Today, we will be discussing real estate. We'll be discussing a lot of things going on specifically in the greater Austin market. So we have brought what I like to call the Austin area superstar, Damian Squires, with mymortgage.com. Welcome aboard, Damian.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, the statistics have come out for December of 2025. And so we ended the year, the number of units sold, in other words, the number of houses, these are all pretty much single families or duplexes. There's no apartments or anything in this units. This is homes, was up 2%. That means we're selling more this year than last year. And that, I don't think people understand that, because what they're seeing, everybody feels they're seeing a lot of listings, right? And they feel they see, and I do too. I feel like I see listing signs everywhere. But Austin has been such a inventory restricted market for, a decade.
Yeah.
I mean, since probably 2013, 2015, somewhere in there. It's been 2 months inventory or less. I mean, at one point, Austin was at like 2 days of inventory.
I remember that.
And so people are seeing this, and so they have this thing that means that the houses are losing value and nobody can sell. Right. We added 1,900 listings and we sold 2,500 and some odd numbered homes. So we actually took more homes off the market than we put on.
Yeah.
And so I think people need to understand that. I think people are missing that. And I think the reason why is mostly what I like to focus on is what they call the median sales price. And the average person believes that represents depreciation.
Yeah.
Right. And because the median sales price even December went down 3%. But we sold more units. So it doesn't mean that you lost any value. It means that we just sold more homes below that it was like 440, below that 440 number last year than this year, or this year than last year. And so we're selling more homes, and Austin is a funny market. And I don't think people understand that how Austin is a feast or famine market.
Yeah.
And once things kind of move, it moves quickly.
We've seen this for years, going back to, you saw the tech boom in 2000, and then in 2001, we had our own little mini bust in Austin. And then of course, 2008, you see it move throughout, as long as we've been in the business. Traditionally, equilibrium was considered 6 months inventory. In today's world, 4 months inventory, as far as the folks that have been in the business, we look at 4 months as kind of being that new equilibrium. So what does that mean to Mr. or Mrs. Buyer? Well, they're going to look at this and say, okay, well, there's opportunity here to buy. We're not overpriced, we're not underpriced. There's kind of a sweet spot. And I think that's one everyone needs to consider, is we're not in a 21 environment where you're paying so much over listing price that, and you're bidding on, 20 houses in 2 weeks, right? There's opportunity in this market.
Yes.
Is the way that I see it.
Because what are we currently at? Like 4.5 months?
Yeah, 4.5 months.
4.5 months. And, and what that means in just case is that the number of listings, if there wasn't a new listing that came onto the market in 4.5 months, there would be no more homes for sale. So that's just kind of an idea as to how that explains it. I think the key factor in here that I think most sellers need to understand is that 90, I think that we were really emphasizing that because it's an important number. 90% of all homes sold in December were below list price.
They were getting 90% of the list.
Or 90%, yeah.
Yeah, they were getting.
Yes.
So while a seller may have an idea because their neighbor sold in 21 for this number, their realtor told them another number, and now they're looking at it going, well, I want to meet in the middle there. the market demands what the price you're going to get. And so what that stat tells me is that, out of those 2,000 some odd homes that sold in December, they were overpriced.
Yeah.
And they came to an agreement and got 90% of that asking price.
Right.
So probably still made a lot of money.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, because people forget we were having 40+% year-over-year appreciation
In some markets,
in the Austin area.
In some markets, it went up as much as 75 to 90% over a 2-year period.
Mm-hmm.
That is a ton of equity that folks are sitting on.
Yeah.
All of this kind of pushes back to a discussion we've had previously, which did we see the bottom already?
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, yes.
Yeah. And we talked about this.
So,
we talked about this, before.
Yeah.
That why I believe we have seen the bottom is based off of the return of appraisals. 6-8 months ago, we were seeing 30. What would you say? 30%?
25-30%.
About 30% of all appraisals were below sales price. Now we're not seeing any. We're actually the last few we're seeing homes the appraise above the sales price. We just had one $4,000. You had one that was like $80,000.
Yeah.
So that is completely the opposite of what we were seeing in the past. I think people just need to understand what's going on. There's a lot of assumptions in the market. And so, assuming that homes are sitting, the average time to sell is 88 days in the greater Austin area, which is, on the higher end of the country. The country right now, I think, is somewhere in the 60s, if I remember correctly. So it is a little bit longer. So, and that might have to do with the fact that people are waiting till that you price the home incorrectly, waiting till you realize you've priced the home incorrectly and then going in with an offer. Because what I'm seeing from the agents that I'm working with is that homes aren't sitting that long. They're listing them right, and then they're selling quickly. And then some of them aren't listing them right, and they're sitting on the market, and so it's skewing that time.
There is a huge disparity between, the homes that are selling.
Mm-hmm.
They're selling quickly to the ones that kind of sit around and, for 90 days.
Yes.
And I think that, as we see more buyers enter the market because of interest rate, because of, just a whole different mentality and education, we're going to continue to see those homes sell a lot faster.
Absolutely.
But what my agents, the ones that stage the home properly, that list it realistically the first time, those are the ones that are selling. We're selling in a week or selling in 2 weeks. It's just kind of the haves and have-nots. If you do it right the first time, it's going to...
Yes, it's going to move quickly. And then, of course, turnkey. Not a lot of people are looking for rehabs right now. It's turnkey. Nothing really wrong with the home. List it right. It sells quickly.
And you think it's kind of contributed the overpricing, whatever initially listing, is due to the recency of the increased prices during COVID? Like they still have that in their mind that...
Absolutely. And so you got to think too, some people that bought at the very end of COVID, bought late 22, early 23, their house isn't worth or wasn't. It's probably by the end of this year. If it hasn't caught value back now, by the end of this year, I think it'll be the same value.
I'm sorry, but it's so important that you have a great team, a great real estate agent, a great mortgage professional, a financial planner. I've talked to so many folks that went out and they bought in new construction areas, and they did it because the home they were getting an interest rate that was so low. They were getting this. When they took all of those incentives, and then 2 years later they need to sell, they're still competing with the builder.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to sell a resale because they've lived in it for 2 years.
Yep.
The builder is able to compete at a level that they cannot.
Mm-hmm.
So we do see, and that's what I believe some of that inventory is, are homes that the people are upside down because, they bought because it was a great deal instead of buying on a plan. And that's why our team focuses on, let's make sure that this is your next 5-year home. Because if you're going to buy it in this area, then you're gonna have to stay there for 5 years to recoup.
Right.
Depending on your loan product, all these other things. So I think having those consults and having a great team, a great agent who can say, hey, this area, if it's only a 3-year home, this is where you want to buy. This is what you want to spend.
Right.
If it's a 5 to 10-year home, then yeah, let's go look out here. We're still competing with new builds and things like that. So for us, it's all about education and determining what their short, mid, and long-term plans are, so that we can make sure that we advise them correctly, so we don't find ourselves in a situation where we're upside down around.
Yeah, short-term versus long-term, it's completely different.
Yeah, and that is something too that people, because I'm like, hey, and it's one of the questions you ask, and 9 out of 10 tell me, oh, it's my forever home, and I'm like, it's your second home ever. I'm, I just, and sometimes it is, but the realistic thought process, if you move into a brand new neighborhood, is you have to live there at least 5 years.
I say it's an 8 to 10 year plan.
Yeah,
In some neighborhoods, because if you've got 1,500 lots available,
if you're moving in the very beginning, it could be longer. If you're moving in at the very end of the neighborhood, it can be shorter. But because like you said, people don't realize if they have to move early, they have to compete against the builder, and the builder can swing their sales price up and down all the time.
They can offer lower interest rates than a resale can many times. They have deeper pockets to be able to take a loss. Individuals usually don't.
Yeah. And so, and again, the most important thing I think that people just should understand is that, like I said, the median sales price went down, but the total volume, as in the total sales price, went up. Units went up. So the market, in my opinion, is starting to make that turn. And if you're thinking about moving, buying, selling, you should start speaking with an expert. Start speaking with a realtor. Have somebody take a look at your application process for a home loan so that you can get anything out. Because I have found in Austin that when it turns fast. It's one of those electric bikes on 6th Street at midnight. Right around the corner.
And if you're looking to purchase in the next 6 months, now is the time to get pre-approved and get that process going.
Absolutely. And you have been watching the Home Team 512 with Troy and Colton, and of course our superstar Damian Squires. You want to reach out to Damian, it's mymorgo.com. You want to reach out to me, you can use, of course, the QR code up here in the corner. You can give me a call at 855-299-HOME or loansfromtroy.com. This segment has been brought to you by Security National Mortgage, where we turn houses into homes by financing your American dream. And you're about to see some commercials of some of our sponsored listings. If you like one, there's a QR code. You can reach out to them. If you do end up purchasing one of them that you saw through our ad and you finance through us, we will give you 1% off your mortgage for the first year at no cost to you. Hey, and we'll see you at the next segment. Hello, Austin, Texas, and welcome to the Home Team 512 with Troy and Colton. Today, we are talking about my favorite topic, which is personal finance. And we have brought an Austin area expert at this topic on. His name is Damian Squires. Welcome, Damian. Damian also works with Security National Mortgage. You can reach out to him at mymorgo.com if you want to reach out to him, especially for home purchases or any sort of questions. But this segment is brought to you by Security National Mortgage, where we turn houses into homes by financing your American dream. If you want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me at 855-299-HOME. I'm a phone call guy, but whatever. You can also reach out to me on the website, loansfromtroy.com, or reach out there to, of course, our special QR code. Kind of put your information in and we will get back with you. This is the topic that I think, I love talking about money, right? Because growing up, Our parents didn't understand it. You know,
Yeah.
credit cards became a big deal. 401ks weren't even created. So our parents had no idea how to teach us. And so we had to kind of stumble through it and learn on our own. And now at this age, I'm like, wow, if I'd have just known this in my 20s, I wouldn't be working anymore, you know? And so I think it's very important to talk to people about it. And, you know, the most important thing that every financial person I've ever studied, read, followed, whatever, they always start out with one thing: spend less than you make. That's rule number one, right?
It seems so easy and simple.
Yeah. And I talk to 20 to 50 people a month about money, right? You know, people calling and applying for loans and things like that. 20 to people a month. And I can tell you two know how much money they make and know how much money they spend. And I'm being very gracious when I say two. I could, like this month, I can only think of one person. And so most people just don't understand it. And they don't understand by not paying attention to that most crucial thing,
Yeah.
you know, that they're setting themselves back.
You know, and I can't even blame this on my parents. I have to throw this at education. You know, they wanted to teach us how to square dance and not how to run a budget.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
you know, let's
Absolutely.
really look at that. But more seriously, you know, I talk to business owners, folks that are self-employed, you know, supposed business people that don't maintain a basic budget. And that's where we need to start, in my opinion, is, you know, what are your expenses? And, you know, it's not people hear budget or profit and loss or any financial term and they get intimidated. It's a pretty basic concept. Put your bills on one side, put your income on the other side. You know, you want to look at that and you want to, you know, put some money aside, put some reserves out there. And that's what, you know, we refer to those as reserves in our industry. But, you know, different incomes, different jobs, different, you know, employment types require different amounts of reserves.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I know, you know, we had kind of discussed variable income. You know, if you look at some of the gurus, the Dave Ramsey style, you know, methods, you know, if your variable income, if your income changes monthly, they're going to tell you need at least 6 months. And, you know, we look at a lot of folks' income and financials, and some of them have no months of reserves. So if something catastrophic, or as I call it, if life happens, there's no opportunity for error.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, and it starts with the very first thing. It's a budget. You know, the problem is people don't realize how much they're actually spending, right? The funny thing is Colton teases me all the time because, you know, I haven't watched this show that everybody's watched in America. I said, because it's on a streaming platform that I don't have. He's like, it's $12, go get it. I'm like, I've maxed out my allowable streaming platforms. I have to cut another one to add that one, because that's my budget. I've decided that I'm going to spend X amount for streaming platforms, right? And but people just, oh well, you know, this show's great, you got to get on it. Well, there's like 57 different streaming platforms. I mean, if you know, we all complained about how it was cheap. We thought it was cheaper when we got cut cable. Well, 2 years later, it's more expensive to stream now than cable ever was. You know, so those are the things, you know, you have to do that. And, you know, one of the things that I use is Rocket Money that I use. I'm not advertising anything else I'm not endorsing or anything like that.
Competitor.
It's complete. So it was this money program, and then it's called Rocket Money, and it logs into your bank account. It logs into your credit card, and it tracks it, right? So every expense you make, everything, it tracks it. And then, you know, I've had it for a while, and I'll go in and categorize every expense, right? And then after a while, I took last year and saw how much I spent, decided how much I was going to try to save. And so then I created a budget based off of my average monthly. And then I squeezed each column down 5%. So I'm going to try to spend 5% less this year than last year. And so I get tracked on everything, but, you know, like vacation. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to spend this much for the whole year. So I just divide that out by 12, right? So, you know, 1 month I'll blow my vacation, but then I'll spend nothing on it, as an example. right? And so it's a yearly thing. And so that's the hardest part for people like you and myself, because we are commission.
Yeah.
Right. In our industry, you eat what you kill, so if we do not do any work this month, we do not get paid. So it's really hard for variable income people to budget.
Yeah.
Because and so the first thing for a variable income person you need to understand is the seasonality of your job, right? So there's every commission, I'm assuming I say this, the only one I know, there's better months and worse months, right? Typically in the mortgage industry, that December to February is the slower times, right? Especially when the rate's a little bit higher, nobody's refinancing during those times. People are doing Christmas and just spend on Christmas, so they're not purchasing. Those are typically the slower months, right? So what I know this because I've been in the business long enough, so I prepare for those months. I prepare ahead for this seasonality. And so there are two things, and you've already mentioned one of them. One is reserves. So I have to do a budget, have to know what I call it my survival number. I have to have X amount of money to pay just to make it to the next month, right? So traditionally, like you said, people that are W-2 type employees and things like that, 3 months is usually good enough.
Yeah.
Variable up to 6 months, but no matter what, you got to get to the 3 months.
Yeah.
So first you have to do your budget, find your survival number, and then no matter what, get 3 months of your survival in a savings account.
Yeah.
That's kind of the first two steps, right?
Yeah.
The next step is if it's not an asset appreciating debt, you shouldn't have it as a debt. So then after you've got your 3 months, you work towards no credit card debt. You work to being more of a cash. You can use credit cards, but you have to pay them off every month. And if you can't pay it off, and then don't get it.
Yeah.
Right. But self-employed, you need to spend money to continue your business. So you're going to have to really maneuver that. And that is part of your 3-month reserve, what it takes to run your business as well. But then you get rid of the wasteful things. If you have to use credit in your business, you make sure you use the right cards. Make sure you use cards that either pay points or pay cash back or things like that. What type of credit card? That's very important, because there are business-friendly credit cards out there that are way more advantageous to have than just a regular old card from the local bank. Super important to use that, right? Because then you got to think on that month where things aren't going well, you may have accumulated enough cash to make your minimum payment, to make your payment, things like that. So you can use that as well. So those are the most important things for variable income. You got to know what it takes to live.
Yeah.
Then you got to put 3 months of that away, right?
Yeah.
And then you have to know your seasonality, because your seasonality could be 4 months, it could be 5 months, it could be 6 months, and then you have to then prepare for that seasonality, and then you have to, in the good times, during the summer, you pay down debt. You keep your deal, and then the whole goal is always to get out of unsecured debt.
Yeah.
Unsecured debt is you are working for the bank.
Yeah.
I
think a lot of we understand it, and our realtor partners understand it. There are a lot of industries that are seasonal. I grew up in South Texas, refinery. Wildcatting, working in the oil patch. That is seasonal work. You can't do it when it's frozen.
Right.
You can't do it in certain parts of the country where, there's hurricanes, so we work with a lot of different clients from a lot of different industries. And, even in the tech industry, there's seasonality in it. So I think it's important that everyone understands it and, has a great relationship with their mortgage professional, their financial planner, their tax professional, so that they can really help them walk through this and, just get them to a point to where they understand better how important this is from a credit profile perspective, from a affordability perspective, from a lifestyle perspective. A lot less stress if you've got some backup.
Yeah, and we can kind of help with that budget as well. Whenever we get an application and we see that debt to income ratio is kind of right there on the borderline, it's like, hey, if you get rid of this debt and this debt, maintain your income, even if it is variable, we can make it.
I'm a spreadsheet geek. I've built spreadsheets that will show the percentage of debt usage and where it'll actually help impact their credit scores. I mean, that's why it's so important to get as a great professional.
I'm a big Dave Ramsey guy. You go to moneymakeover.com, I think. He's got an Excel spreadsheet on how to pay your debt off. He'd download for free. I use that all the time. I think Dave's, he's a little harsher than me, but I think his concepts are spot on.
I love Dave, except when you talk about credit scores.
Yeah. No, but and so it's just super important. And like I said, the most important thing is I use digital because it's easier.
Yeah.
That's easier for me to track. But 1 month you have to write down every single thing you spent on. You have to break it into categories.
Get out your big sheet pad and your pencil and do it.
Balance that check.
Yeah, there's another book, All Your Worth, which breaks it down into 50, 30, 20. 50% is survival, 30% is discretionary, 20% is savings. And it's a great book. I've read it. I give it to people all the time. And so those are the things that I think are super important. But it starts with you. It starts with the budget, and you have to spend a 30-day period of tracking every single penny. Like I said, I like digital because I can then track the whole year, build the whole thing. It's super, but not everybody likes that. Hey everyone, you've been listening and watching the Home Team 512 with Troy and Colton. We want to thank our esteemed guest, Damian Squires with mymorgo.com. This segment has been brought to you by Security National Mortgage, where we turn houses into homes by financing your American dream. If you want to reach out to me, of course, there is our amazing QR code because we're so tech savvy. Or if you're like me, 855-299-HOME. You can also go to the website, which is loansfromtroy.com. Hey, in the next 90 seconds, you're going to see some featured listings from our greater Austin area homes. If you do end up purchasing one of the houses you saw through here and you use us for financing, we will get the first year of interest rate. We'll take 1% off for the first year for you at no cost. All right, we'll see you next week.